What is up guys, Andy Forrest Steam Runner here. Welcome back to another video, and today we're sitting down and diving into the shoes that I've bought in this middle third of 2021 and talk about how I've been using them. So every quarter or third of the year, what I like to do is sit down and break down the shoes that I've purchased in that time period. This year, I've decided to do it in thirds because I'm reviewing slightly less shoes than I did last year. And then we can talk about how I've been using them, how they've performed, if they've been a bit of a hit or if they've been a miss. So if you missed the first video, which was done back at the end of April, talking about those shoes that I bought from January to April, make sure you head back. I'll make sure I leave a link above. And today we're talking about all the shoes that I bought from May right the way through to the end of August. So if you're excited for today's video guys, make sure you give it a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content, and we'll kick start with the first one. And the first one is the Puma Liberate Nitro, and a massive thanks to a viewer, Nick, who very kindly sent these over to me. He bought them with his own money and sent them over and said, Andy, this is a gift for you. You need to try these shoes. I love mine. I'd love to hear your thoughts on them. So once again, Nick, a massive thank you for sending these over to me. And I'm really delighted you did, because I have to say this has been a massive hit so far in 2021. Complete curveball, surprised me. I say it time and time again. Pegasus Turbo Upper, Brooks Hyperion Tempo midsole were the two closest things I can come to with this shoe, except obviously slightly less stack height than the Brooks Hyperion Tempo. Beautiful nitrogen infused midsole, absolutely fantastic. Been using this thing mainly for speed work, the shorter, sharper intervals, and that's why this is the only shoe, bar the Pegasus 38, which we'll talk about shortly, that hasn't got to 100 miles. It's about 4 miles off. It's so close, but poor thing's been sat there for a while because I was using it back earlier in the plan, and as I've come off plan and been doing slightly longer intervals, so I've reached for other more highly cushioned shoes. But this thing was an absolute winner when it came to those shorter 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute intervals. Just lightweight, poppy, responsive, just everything I want in a speed shoe, and really durable. I can't actually wait to get this to 100 miles and give you guys my feedback and tell you how it's been doing. So we start off with a winner. And then we move on to another winner of a shoe, Atreu's carbon plated racer, the Artist. Don't quite have it to hand, it's actually out there in the shed at the moment. I've got a fair few shoes out there in storage because the house can only hold so many of my shoes. And in here is the rotation that I'm using the most. There's a few out there, which we'll talk about shortly. But the Atreu's Artist shoe has been fantastic. Budget, carbon plated racing shoe, great value for money. Reached 100 miles in that thing pretty quickly, and I use that predominantly for long run workouts and long runs themselves. Really enjoyed them. Struggled in lots of tight turns due to the fact that the upper has a little bit more less support than some shoes, so your ankle is prone to rolling if you're not careful. But if you're on flat tarmac, I genuinely can't think of a better, more value for money training shoe, if I'm honest, than that shoe. And again, just like the base model, I was pleasantly surprised with what Atreu had produced, and I'm looking forward to their future productions. If you want to see more about that, make sure you head back onto the channel and check out the 100 mile review update of that shoe. And the third one is not so much of a winner, maybe a little bit more of a miss. Again, another shoe that's out there in the shed. Probably not going to get many more miles in them. It'd be hard pushed if I get it to 100. Just a shoe that I've not enjoyed that much, and that is the Pegasus 38. Now, I think the best thing to describe that shoe is if you like the 37, you'll like the 38. If you don't like the 37, then not much has changed. I do feel like there's been some slight improvements. The airbag in the front, it just feels a little bit more responsive, but in terms of daily trainers, it just feels very bog standard. There's better daily trainers out there. Don't get me wrong, I didn't dislike it. In fact, I did have some few positive things to say about it, but there's nothing inspiring about that shoe that's making me want to lace up. I've got the Mach 4, I've got the Nova Blast. Those two have been my go-to daily training shoes. They just give a little bit more than the Pegasus, and therefore that's why it's kind of been shelved for the moment. So that is maybe a bit of a miss. Moving swiftly on to the New Balance Rebel version 2. This is a shoe that had a lot of hype around it. I had to test it. I really wanted to see what the hype was all about. I had to wait a bit because it didn't do my size straight away, but then they did release my size in this colorway, so I managed to grab a pair. And again, just like the Puma Liberate Nitro, I've been reserving this thing pretty much for speed workouts. I did do some extra mileage, which ended up getting it over the 100-mile mark relatively quickly, but since then the mileage has tailed off slightly. And again, that's purely because I've ended up preferring it, despite doing other types of runs in it, easies and moderates and stuff like that. I've ended up preferring it for the shorter, sharper stuff. A different end to the spectrum with the Puma, but still both really good, poppy, responsive for those shorter 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute intervals. And that's where my preference is with this shoe. I did find the pronation in this thing is real. The foam is so soft. I found I was getting quite sore ankles if I was running it for more than sort of 8 to 10 miles. So I've ended up having to cap things at that point. It's a little bit frustrating when you get a shoe that's so good but has that kind of big sticking point that means you have to limit its use. And again, that's why it's not had much use over recent weeks. So at the moment, I think I still kind of do prefer that Puma Liberate Nitro for the speed stuff. This thing is a very close second. So overall, it's been a great shoe. I do really enjoy it. I just have to limit its usage. And now we move on to the Dragonflies. This is a shoe that I actually haven't put any mileage in yet. It has been sent to me in this quarter by Tim Gross, another amazing chap who has his own YouTube channel. You guys need to go and check that out. He does some of the most thorough and incredible running reviews that I've seen out there. He's completely unique and does brilliant stuff. He very kindly got a pair of these and decided to send them to me for testing. I haven't yet had a chance to get up to a track. Our local track is a cinder type track. It would probably ruin these shoes. The nearest decent synthetic surface track is either Gloucester or Hereford, about 30 minutes or 45 minutes away. So I need to find some time and cut out 2 or 3 hours of a day to go and properly test these out, which will hopefully be coming soon. I was actually possibly looking at doing a track race on September the 9th, which I think is a Friday evening. Sadly, I'm not doing that now because I'm focusing a little bit more on Bristol half, which is the week after. But there will come a point where I do end up getting to test these, and then I'll be doing a collaborative video with Tim. But it'll be my first time running in spikes, and I am super excited to test these. Then we move on to the 6th and penultimate shoe, the Asics Nova Blast version 2. This was possibly it was the highest anticipated shoe by myself for this year. You guys know the love that I have for the version 1. I could not wait for this thing to come out this year, and it took way too long. I really wanted to get my hands on a pair. I saw some of the early reviews, some of the other YouTubers getting their hands on them, and I was like, oh man, I need to test these shoes out. And yes, we all established after putting a few miles in, they don't quite have the magic that the version 1s have, but for me they have still been an absolute winner, very much a hit of a shoe, so much so that we're already nearly at 200 miles. This has now become, mixing it up with the Mach 4, my go-to daily trainer. I've been putting a lot of miles in there, and again, I think I'm 10 miles away, 15, 20 maximum from hitting the 200 mile mark. The mileage is rocketing in this thing, and we're nearly there. I've been loving the cushion, loving the bounce in the shoe. Yes, in terms of the magic, as I said, I think the 8mm drop as opposed to the original 10 has kind of taken you slightly off your toes. You've lost a bit of that bounce, a bit more cushion in the forefoot, means you kind of sink a little bit more and bounce rather than kind of bounce but roll through, if that makes sense. So yes, there's a little bit less all about it like the version 1, but it's still for me a really solid shoe. Lots more cushioning. It's going to be another good one for winter. Hopefully it will still be going strong if it's anything like version 1, which for me, I've retired at 410 miles and I've been probably got over 1,000 miles in them walking because I've been using them for most of the year. This thing should last a long time. And finally, the 7th shoe that we've been testing out is the Skechers Razor XS. Now this is a shoe that I, again, couldn't wait to get my hands on. Skechers have been so hard to come by in the UK, and finally sportshoes.com have a small supply, shall we say. There's a few models. I can't get many in my size. There's a few more models that other people can get, but maybe a couple more, not many. I think there's about 3 or 4 that I can get and test. The Max Road 5 is something you guys screamed about in the comments. I'd love to test it. I don't and can't get it unless I import it from the US or somewhere else. But I have to say, I've been pleasantly surprised with this shoe. Now, it didn't blow me away, and I've got to be honest with you, I was worried at first. The midsole was very firm, and I'd still only have a couple of runs in the shoe. But as the thing has started to open up on the second run, I did really enjoy it, and I feel like this thing has a lot of potential to come, especially as we start to break it in even more. I'm excited. It's lightweight, it's poppy, it is firmer than a lot of the other shoes I have, but I do feel that pop in it. I do kind of get that nice roll and responsiveness. It's just on the other end of the spectrum in terms of midsole firmness. So again, nitrogen infused midsole, like the Brooks Hyperion Tempo, like the Puma Liberate Nitro, but this is just a little bit firmer than those. Interesting to see if it does mold to my feet and loosen up a little bit, or if it does stay firm throughout. Either way, I cannot wait to put more miles in this shoe. So there we go. Those are the 7 shoes that I have been sent or purchased with my own money during this middle quarter of 2021. There are some absolute killer shoes in there. The Nova Blast 2, the Puma Liberate Nitro, there are some brilliant ones. And obviously the Pegasus 38, a bit of a miss. But overall, I've managed to get a good collection, much better than the first third of the year where it had a few dud shoes. But I'd love to know in the comments below what you've been testing in this middle section of the year. What are your recent purchases, and are you enjoying them, or are they a bit of a miss for you? Let me know in the comments below, and let's get that discussion going. If you enjoyed today's video, guys, make sure you give it a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content, and as always, I'll see you in the next one. Until then.